My girlfriend of 3 years cheated on me with my gay cousin. Or so I thought. If someone told me a year ago that my girlfriend would cheat on me, I'd have laughed. Not because I trusted her completely, but because of who she'd cheat with. People always say, you can't choose your family. But what they don't say is that sometimes the people you trust most know exactly how to use that trust against you. Samantha was my girlfriend for 3 years. My cousin, Chris, was like a brother to me, the kind of guy who helped me move apartments, crashed on my couch, and listened when life got heavy. He was gay, or at least that's what he told me. So when Samantha laughed too hard at his jokes, or they spent hours together when I wasn't around, I never thought twice about it. But looking back now, I should have. Welcome to Raw Reddit Tales. Subscribe to keep getting the spiciest stories online. The first 2 years with Samantha were good, almost picture perfect. We had our little arguments about dishes and bills, but nothing out of the ordinary. She made me believe we were building something real. And when Chris came out to the family, I was proud of how brave he was. I told him my home was his safe space whenever he needed to escape our nosy relatives. That's how it started. Him visiting often, staying late, helping out when I worked overtime. Samantha said she liked having someone to talk to when I wasn't around. It made me feel better, honestly. But the third year, something shifted. Samantha became distant. Not cold, but distracted. She'd zone out during our movie nights, laugh at her phone, then lock it the second I got close. When I asked, she'd smile and say, "It's just Chris being goofy." And because it was Chris, I brushed it off. Still, I started noticing the smallest things, like how she started dressing up even when we were staying in, or how Chris suddenly avoided eye contact when I mentioned her. It was subtle, but unsettling. Deep down, I felt something was off. But love makes you blind, and I wasn't ready to see yet. At first, I told myself I was overthinking things. Everyone goes through rough patches, right? People get busy, distracted, tired. That's what I kept repeating in my head, trying to silence that tiny voice that said something wasn't right. But it's funny how the truth always finds a way to whisper louder when you try to ignore it. Samantha started spending more time running errands with Chris. Grocery runs turned into entire afternoons. Movie nights turned into family bonding time that somehow didn't include me. When I'd ask what they did, she'd give vague answers like, "Oh, we just talked about life," or "We were planning a surprise for you." And I wanted to believe her. God, I needed to believe her. Then came the emotional distance. She stopped reaching for my hand when we watched TV. Her hugs felt shorter. Her kisses felt like a routine. I'd catch her staring at her phone, smiling to herself. Once I asked who she was texting, and she laughed. "Relax, it's your cousin." And she said it like I was ridiculous for even asking. Chris, on the other hand, started acting different too. He'd go quiet whenever Samantha's name came up. Sometimes, he'd cancel our plans last minute, but still post a story of him hanging out at my place, with her. I saw one once, and when I confronted him, he brushed it off, saying, "She just wanted to talk about you, man." It was psychological warfare, the kind that makes you question your own mind. Every sign pointed one way, but every excuse they gave turned me the other. I started doubting my instincts, wondering if I was just insecure or paranoid. And whenever I'd bring up how I felt, Samantha would sigh and say, "Why are you so suspicious lately? You're ruining what we have." That line hit hard, because deep down I thought maybe she was right. Maybe I was ruining things by not trusting her enough. I started apologizing for even questioning her, for asking too many questions, for caring too much. Looking back now, that's when I lost myself, the moment I started apologizing for my own intuition. It got to a point where every day felt like walking on eggshells. I didn't know how to act around Samantha anymore, whether to trust her or to start preparing myself for heartbreak. The worst part was pretending everything was fine when deep down, I was drowning in confusion. I remember one weekend vividly. I had planned a short getaway for the two of us. A quiet cabin, no distractions, just us. But the night before, Samantha told me she couldn't make it because Chris wasn't feeling well. "He's going through something," she said softly, "and he needs someone to talk to." I told her I understood, but inside I felt something break. It wasn't just disappointment. It was a quiet realization that I was no longer her priority. The next morning, I drove by Chris's apartment just to check on him. I told myself it was out of concern, but maybe I was looking for proof that my instincts were wrong. When I got there, no one answered. His car was gone. I called him, no response. I called Samantha, straight to voicemail. My stomach sank. That night, Samantha texted me late, saying her phone had died and she was with Chris the whole time. She even sent a photo of the two of them on his couch, smiling. But something about that photo didn't sit right. The lighting, the angle. It looked old. I couldn't explain why, but I knew it wasn't taken that night. I started noticing more inconsistencies, stories that didn't align, timelines that didn't add up. Once she said she spent the evening with Chris watching a movie, but Chris had posted a picture from a restaurant with a friend. I remember staring at the screen, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might crack my ribs. When I confronted Samantha, she acted offended. "You're seriously checking up on me now?" she said, tears welling up. "I can't believe you think I'd do something like that. With your cousin." And once again, I felt small. Manipulated, like the bad guy in my own story. But that night, lying awake beside her, I knew something was very, very wrong. Nothing felt real anymore. I'd wake up beside Samantha and wonder if anything between us ever had been. Her phone, once casually left on the bed or kitchen counter, was now glued to her hand. She'd take it to the bathroom, to the laundry room, even to the mailbox, and every time I tried to ignore it, something in me screamed not to. One evening, she was in the shower, and her phone buzzed twice. I stared at it like it was alive. The name C flashed across the screen. My heart skipped. I told myself C could be anyone. Chris, Chloe, maybe even her coworker Carl. But the next buzz made me do something I never thought I'd do. I picked it up. The notification preview read, "He's still awake. What do I tell him?" My chest tightened. Before I could open it, the screen locked again. When Samantha came out, I asked who had texted. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "My mom." That was the moment I realized how good she had become at lying. I wanted to confront her, to show her the message, but fear held me back. Fear of being right. Days passed, and I became a shadow of myself. I'd find excuses to leave work early just to check if her car was home, drive by Chris's place just to make sure he wasn't hiding something. I hated who I was becoming, paranoid, restless, and angry. Then one evening, I caught them together. I came home early and heard laughter coming from the living room. Intimate laughter, the kind you share when you forget anyone else exists. I froze in the hallway, listening. I couldn't hear words, just tones. Familiar. Too familiar. When I stepped in, Samantha jumped, and Chris looked like a deer caught in headlights. They weren't doing anything, but they didn't have to. The air between them said everything. "Didn't expect you home this early," Chris mumbled, avoiding my eyes. Samantha laughed nervously, fumbling some excuse about watching a show. I didn't say a word. I just nodded and went upstairs. My silence scared them more than my anger ever could. At night, I didn't sleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to Samantha breathe beside me like nothing had happened. My mind replayed the laughter, the glances, the tension I'd felt hanging in the air between them. I knew what I saw, but part of me still hoped I was wrong, that maybe I was just seeing things through the lens of paranoia. The next few days, I pretended to move on. I smiled, cracked jokes, even texted Chris casually. But under that calm surface, I was unraveling. I needed proof, something undeniable. So I started paying attention to the little things, her phone habits, her perfume, the faint scent of cologne that wasn't mine. And the more I noticed, the more it all started to connect. Then came the moment that changed everything. Samantha said she was going to visit her sister in another city for the weekend. I didn't question it. I told her to have fun and even helped her pack. But something in her eyes told me she wasn't going where she said she was. So I waited until she left, then followed, not closely, just enough to see where she'd actually go. 2 hours later, my heart nearly stopped when her car turned into Chris's apartment complex. I parked down the street and sat there in disbelief, watching her knock on his door. When he opened it, she smiled in a way I hadn't seen in months, a smile that used to be mine. She stepped inside and the door closed behind her. I don't know how long I sat there, maybe 10 minutes, maybe an hour. My body felt frozen, like my brain refused to process what my eyes had just seen. When she finally came back out, it was late, past midnight. Her hair was messy, and she looked happy. I drove home in silence, hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. When she got back the next day, she kissed me like nothing had happened. I remember staring at her, realizing that the woman standing in front of me wasn't the same one I fell in love with. And in that moment, something inside me broke quietly. The next morning, I couldn't look at her the same way. Every word out of her mouth sounded rehearsed, every smile calculated. It was like living with a stranger wearing the face of someone I once loved. But I didn't confront her immediately. I wanted to hear the lies one more time, to see if she could still say them with a straight face. So that evening, I asked casually, "How was your sister's place?" She smiled easily. "Good. We talked all night," she said, without flinching. That lie rolled off her tongue so effortlessly it almost impressed me. Almost. I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. I had taken pictures, her car in front of Chris's building, the timestamp, even a short clip of her walking to his door. Her smile faltered for the first time when she saw it. "Samantha," I said quietly, "don't make this worse. Just tell me the truth." She went silent for a long moment, then sighed. "It's not what it looks like." The oldest line in the book. She said Chris had been struggling emotionally and didn't want me to know, so she went to check on him. I asked if that's what people usually do at midnight. She didn't answer. When I mentioned the smell of his cologne on her jacket, she broke. Tears, shaking hands, a trembling voice, the whole performance. She said it happened only once, that she didn't mean for it to, that she felt confused. But when I looked at her, I didn't see confusion. I saw guilt and a strange kind of relief, like she'd been waiting for me to find out. I called Chris that night. He didn't deny it. His voice was calm, almost apologetic. "I didn't plan for it," he said quietly. "It just happened." I laughed, a broken laugh that didn't even sound like me. "You told me you were gay, Chris." He hesitated before saying, "I thought I was, until her." That line cut deeper than any knife could. I hung up. No screaming, no revenge, just silence. Because sometimes silence says everything you never could. The days that followed felt like living in slow motion. Every sound, every movement, every memory of them played in my head like a film I couldn't pause. The anger came in waves. First at Samantha, then at Chris, then at myself. I kept wondering how I missed it, how I let it happen under my own roof. Samantha moved out 2 days later. She cried, begged me to talk, to forgive her, to find a way through this. But there's no way through betrayal. only through letting go. I didn't yell or throw things. I just told her I couldn't look at her without seeing lies stitched into every smile. Watching her walk away felt like losing a limb, but it also felt like regaining breath I didn't realize I'd been holding for months. Chris tried calling too, left long voicemails about how he never meant to hurt me. I didn't respond. Family or not, he'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. My mother called me dramatic for cutting him off, said, "Blood is thicker than water." I told her that's true, but loyalty is thicker than both. For weeks, I wrestled with my thoughts. I replayed every red flag I ignored, every instinct I buried under trust. I realized how easily love can make you blind. How you can be standing in the middle of a storm and still convince yourself it's just rain. Eventually, I stopped asking why me, because there was no satisfying answer. Some people cheat not because you're lacking, but because they're empty. Samantha needed validation. Chris needed attention. I just happened to be the casualty of both. I started therapy, spent time alone, learned to enjoy silence without associating it with loneliness. And for the first time in years, I felt at peace. Now, when I look back, I don't feel hatred anymore, just lessons. I learned that love without respect is chaos, and trust without honesty is suicide. I still believe in love, but not the kind that asks you to go blind for it. Tell me, if you were in my shoes, would you have confronted them sooner, or would you have let love blind you too? The end. Please like and subscribe for more interesting stories like this.